My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to walk through the entire UFC Vegas 46 Kattar versus Chikadze fight card, and I'm going to give you my DraftKings picks, insights, let you know who I think is going to win, who's worth the money, and who is not worth the money. And if you want 50 free dollars, join our free DraftKings League. We have a free DraftKings League. We have free contests every single week, and the winner of those free contests gets $50 from us. The only catch is that you have to be a member of our YouTube channel. So under this video, there's a join button. Click the join button, become a member, participate in the free contest every single week. And if you win, I send you $50. It is that simple. Let's jump right in. The first thing I did here was I sorted the player salaries by value. I did the highest, most expensive fighters first, and then as we work our way down, it's the underdogs, the less expensive fighters. I'm going to walk through every single one of these, and I like to do it like this instead of by fight, because when you build your lineup, you don't build it by fight, you build it by cost. You grab the people you know you want, and then you go from there to budget. So let's just start with the most expensive fighter. We have Giga Chikadze at, excuse me, at $9,300. He's very expensive. The reality is Giga Chikadze is a phenomenal striker. His opponent, Calvin Kattar, is also a phenomenal striker. Calvin's a very good boxer. Giga is more of a more versatile kickboxer striker. He has stopped a bunch of people, and he scored a ton of points in those stoppages, 92, 105, 103. He does have decision wins on the books as well, but as of late, he has been a stoppage machine. With that being said, let's look at the decision wins, because Calvin Kattar is ridiculously tough, and we saw how tough he was when he fought Max Holloway. And in these decision wins, 68, 70, 51, 68, he does score some points, but $9,300 is a lot of money, because in order for that to be worth it, Giga Chikadze needs to stop Calvin Kattar. And here's the matchup for you. Calvin Kattar, very good boxer, striker. Giga Chikadze, very good striker in general, very versatile, uses kicks really, really well. Calvin Kattar has issues with people who get in his face and push the pace like Max Holloway did. That's not how Giga fights. Giga takes his time, picks his shots, and he does really well, but he's not a pressure guy. So I actually think this will be a very close fight. I do think Giga wins, but I think Calvin Kattar is ridiculously live in this fight, because stylistically, if Giga's not in his face constantly pushing the action, I think Calvin can settle into a rhythm. And I'll tell you right now, Giga's the more well-rounded striker, but Calvin Kattar is the better boxer. And if he settles into a rhythm, that could be a problem for Giga. So I think Giga wins. I'm not going to spend the $9,300 because I don't think he wins by stoppage. It is 5 rounds, though. It is 5 rounds, and that's the only wild card, because let's say we look at when he beat Rivera by decision, that was 3 rounds. You add 2 more rounds, he's around 100 points. So, you make your decision. We'll see what kind of money I have left over, but $9,300, it's a lot of money. I do think it likely goes to a decision. He's probably a safe play to have, but this is not a slam dunk, and $9,300 is a lot of money. Gabriel Benitez, TJ Brown, this fight dropped. The fight is done. The fight dropped. Gabriel Benitez is out, and TJ Brown is now fighting Charles Rosa. We'll break that down. Let's come down here. We'll pull up TJ Brown. He's now fighting Charles Rosa. He's $7,100. What's beautiful about DraftKings is they don't adjust the prices. So he will remain $7,100 even if he becomes the betting favorite. With that being said, it's an interesting matchup because TJ Brown's a very good wrestler, and he's got good jiu-jitsu. We'll break down the Charles Rosa TJ Brown fight in detail, but I like TJ Brown at $7,100. And let's look at what he does here. In his win against Kai Kamaka, who a lot of people thought he lost that fight, he had 2 takedowns, some control time, a bunch of strikes, and he scored 80 points. And if I get 80 points or 79 points out of a $7,100 fighter, I'm happy with that. So I think TJ Brown is good value. Charles Rosa is a very good jiu-jitsu guy. His striking is not very good. His takedowns are okay, and his grappling is amazing. I think TJ Brown can make something happen in that fight. So I like him at $7,100, and we'll break down that fight in more detail. Then we have the first name is absurd. So, don't bust me for trying to pronounce these insane names. But we have Weisslav Borschelev, and he is fighting, nickname Slava Claus. He's fighting Dakota Bush, and it's an interesting matchup. I think he's a little too expensive here. I'll be honest with you, because I think the betting odds are wide. I think the price is a little off. He is making his sort of official DraftKings UFC debut here. So let's take a look at Dakota Bush, so we have at least some context here. Weisslav's the favorite. 2-1 favorite seems a little extreme. He is a nasty, nasty kickboxer. He's actually the kickboxing coach at Team Alpha Male. The big question here is, how will he deal with somebody who will wrestle him? And Dakota Bush has some wrestling. Dakota Bush can push the takedowns, try to make something happen. If we look in his last fight against Austin Hubbard, he lost that fight. He took it on short notice, and Austin Hubbard is a machine, but he still got a takedown. He still had some solid control time. I think at $7,200, he's probably a decent underdog to have in your lineup, especially for a multi-entry, because Weisslav Borschelev could be very live for a knockout. He's a phenomenal, literally world caliber kickboxer, but we have not seen the wrestling truly tested. We have not seen what he does. He's at Team Alpha Male. I expect that he's getting a lot of wrestling looks, and then he'll pop right back up to his feet and be prepared for the wrestling. But until we see it, we don't know. So I just don't think I'm going to spend the $9,000. It's just so tricky because there's a lot of questions. I do think Dakota Bush is a decent value at $7,200. He can get some takedowns, some control time. He could also get stopped in the first 30 seconds. It's a tough one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments here, because if I've seen Borschelev wrestle and I've seen him stand up and have no issues with the wrestling, he's the pick 100% of the time. $9,000 is worth the money. Too many questions still. UFC debut, there's a lot going on there. Official UFC debut. He looked great in the Contender Series, but it's a lot going on there. $9,000 is a little risky, a little rich for my blood, but we'll see what happens come actual fight night. Caitlyn Chicago is fighting Jennifer Maia. Caitlyn Chicago, this is a rematch. Caitlyn Chicago won the first fight, 2-1. Jennifer Maia was still able in the third round to get a takedown, have some control time, but Caitlyn Chicago did what she does. Just constant touching, just tons of strikes, moving around like crazy. Strike, 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 move, strike, 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 move, strike, 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 move. Nothing flashy, nothing over the top. She's not going to stop anybody. She is on a ridiculous, I think she's going to set a record if she wins by decision for the most amount of decisions in that division. Maybe even the most in the UFC. It's something absurd like that. But with that being said, let's look at what she does. So at $8,800, she scored 82 points against Viviane Araújo. I think this is actually a pretty similar fight. I really do. I am worried that Jennifer Maia is going to come out here, try to take Caitlyn down, because she did have some success with that in their last fight. But, she had a takedown and still didn't win. So Caitlyn's well prepared. I'm sure she's expecting some more grappling than last time. But, let's say she scores 85, 90 points. I think at $8,900, she's a little too expensive. But Caitlyn Chicago is the type of person you can count on. Look at the wins and losses. She beats every single person she's supposed to beat. And then she loses to the people she's supposed to lose to. If you look at the first fight, she only scored 66 points. I think this is a little different, though. I think she's more prepared. People who win the first fight in a rematch tend to have a little more success in the second fight. I think she'll be more prepared, and I think it'll look closer to this fight with a ton of significant strikes, just a ton of significant strikes. So, $8,900, like I said, it's a little too much money, but she's the type of fighter you can trust to do what she's supposed to do. So I honestly will probably have her in one lineup or something like that. We've got Brandon Royval, and he is taking on Rogerio Bontorin, and this is a fun fight. Brandon Royval is one of the most fun fighters that you could possibly get. The guy comes out, tries to work for a finish, but has the cardio to go a full 15 minutes. The guy puts on a show. He's very, very entertaining. He is coming off 2 losses in a row, but there's upper echelon guys in the division. And both of these guys are going to be looking to make a statement, and both of them are going to be looking to stay in this division, stay at the top of the pile there, and really, cement themselves as a top 10, top 5 guy. It's interesting because I think Royval's the more well-rounded fighter. He's definitely the better striker. Bontorin's the better grappler, and he definitely has more power in his hands. His striking's not very good, but he does have legit power in his hands. I think Royval should be the favorite here, as he is. I think the odds are a little wide because I think it's a close fight. And I do worry about Royval's wildness. He just does crazy stuff, and sometimes it gets him in trouble. I think he wins the fight. I think he wins on his feet. The scrambles worry me a bit. $8,800. Let's look at these wins. Granted, those are by submission, and he's not going to submit Bontorin. He could, but it's not going to happen. But I do think he could put up okay numbers. I think he'll get some of his own takedowns. I think he'll do some exciting stuff on his feet. Potentially could win a scramble or two with a reversal. So I don't expect a finish. But if we look here, this was a second-round finish. He scored 91 points. Even if we remove the finish bonus, he had, okay number of strikes, but he had a good amount of control time and a takedown and a reversal. And that's really where the points start to add up. You get 5 for a takedown. Control time is just a clock ticking. And I forget how much a reversal is, but that's a couple points as well. So I like Brandon Royval to win. Bontorin is legit live and very live for a submission. Very live for a submission because Brandon Royval does crazy crap. And Rogerio Bontorin's legit. And if Brandon Royval wants to play some stupid game and do some weird stuff in a scramble like he did with Pantoja, he could get caught in a submission. So I like Royval. Probably sneak into a lineup or two, but a fight's a fight and anything can happen. Then we have Kakhramonov, and he's fighting Brian Kelleher. And this is an interesting fight. It's the second fight of the night, even though Brian Kelleher is sort of a vet, and a surprise to see him on a card that early. If we look at Kakhramonov's last fight, he scored 89 points. He did have a submission in the 3rd round against Trevin Jones. But I'm going to close this out because let's look at Brian Kelleher because he has been around for 1,000 years, and he has some legit data to look at. Matchup-wise, it's a really tough pick because Brian Kelleher has a ridiculous amount of experience. I mentioned in the breakdown, he's a great measuring stick for people like Kakhramonov because you really get to see how good is somebody like Kakhramonov when he fights a true vet like Brian Kelleher. If we look at Brian's last fight against Pilarte, he had a great fight. He put up 126 points in a very dominant decision win, and that was at 135 pounds, where he belongs. A few of these losses here were at 145 pounds. He was a little undersized, and his fight style is to bully, be physically imposing, use the power, use the strength. And he couldn't do that at 145. He can do that at 135, which is what makes this an interesting matchup because Kakhramonov, he submitted Trevin Jones in his UFC debut. It was in the 3rd round. He did get himself into a little bit of trouble in that fight. He was taken down, controlled a little bit. But he's well-rounded. He's comfortable on his feet. He's got a quick jab, good amount of low kicks. And he uses those to gauge the distance. He's got solid takedown defense, pretty good submission offense. But I like Brian Kelleher in this fight. So I love Brian Kelleher at $7,500. I absolutely love him at $7,500. I think he'll get some takedowns. I think he'll get some control time. He'll get some strikes in there. I think he does well. And $7,500, I will absolutely spend that money on Brian Kelleher. No two bones about it. Let's take a look. We have Brito versus Algeo. And let's go to Algeo because Brito doesn't have any DraftKings data. This is another, man, this card is stacked with interesting matchups, interesting odds, and prices like that. This will be a fun fight. Bill Algeo and Joe Anderson Brito, they have no problems getting into a war. Both guys are well-rounded. Each have solid striking. The technical advantage is probably to Bill Algeo. The grappling advantage is definitely to Brito. And it's interesting because, Joe Anderson Brito, he's fast, he's athletic, good grappler, solid top pressure, wide array of submissions. Bill Algeo has that karate type style. He doesn't have a karate background, but he does have that karate style striking. And he has, good striking defense because of that. He also has good striking output. His volume is pretty good. He likes a dirty stand-up fight if he can keep it there. He has takedowns. Sometimes his accuracy is only 28%, but he is a BJJ black belt. But the most alarming statistic here is Bill Algeo. If you look at his last four fights, last four fights in the UFC, he was taken down 20 times. 20 times in four fights. That is absolutely ridiculous. Even in his win against Spike Carlisle, he was taken down 4 times. Bill Algeo, I mean, look at this. He did put up 85 points in that win. But, I like Brito here. I'm on Brito. I like Brito to win. I think Bill Algeo's problem is the wrestling defense. If he gets taken down pretty easily, he does pop back up, but all that does is open the door to get taken down again. So I like Brito here, $8,600. I will spend that money. Then we have a fun heavyweight matchup. We have Jake Collier versus Chase Sherman. These guys are almost identical, not physically. Jake Collier's a little loose in the gut. Chase Sherman's a little more fit, but they're almost identical in their fight style. They're both good technical boxers. They put up a ton of volume. Neither one are really looking to grapple. Jake Collier is probably the more well-rounded fighter skill-wise, but don't forget, he's a middleweight. He was literally a middleweight, sort of let himself go and worked his way up to heavyweight. And I hate saying that. I hate being harsh, and I hate saying he let himself go, but he did. He didn't put on muscle mass like what John Jones is doing to go from light heavyweight to heavyweight. He literally he put on weight, just put on weight and moved up to heavyweight. Neither one of these guys have a ton of power. Both of them have very good chins. Both of them have good volume. Both of them are good boxers. I think Jake Collier is the more technical boxer, but Chase Sherman is more disciplined, has good volume, and Chase Sherman has no striking defense whatsoever, but he absolutely takes a punch. Absolutely. It's insane. If we look at Jake Collier's numbers, it's all significant strikes, and he actually puts up good numbers. I mean, look at this, the Jean Vellante and the Carlos Felipe fight. They're almost identical. They're literally almost identical, and the only difference in the points is the 30-point win bonus. So if Jake Collier wins a decision, we can expect him to put up 80-something points. And $8,500, that's not bad. And we can expect the exact same out of Chase Sherman. Let's look at Chase Sherman. Just add 30 to these decision losses. 67 against Arlovsky. It'd be 78 against Parker, my good friend Parker. I don't think there'll be a KO or TKO, and then you add 30 here, and it would be 70. So your choice is, do you want 70-something points, $7,700 out of Chase Sherman if you think he wins? Or if we look at Jake Collier, $8,500, but he'll score 80-something points if he wins. And it's honestly a pick 'em. This fight's a coin flip. I think Chase Sherman wins, but listen, I think it's going to be 3 rounds, a million punches thrown, and the judges, whatever they see, they see. I think it's literally that simple of a breakdown because these guys are so evenly matched. Michel Pereira is no longer fighting, so we're going to skip him. He's moved to UFC 270 with a new opponent. Then we got Court McGee versus Ramiz Brahimaj. Court McGee, I mentioned this in the breakdown. He's an old school guy. He's not a super athlete. He's not one of these 1%ers that comes in here and could have played any professional sport that they wanted because they're just so naturally gifted. He's not that. But what he is a meat and potatoes guy. He's got good striking, good wrestling offense, good wrestling defense, good grappling, and ridiculously tough and durable. To put this guy away is almost impossible. He's got 30-some-odd fights, and he's only been stopped one time. One time in 30-something fights was he stopped. He also is not stopping a ton of people, but let's look at these losses. Okay, he lost to Sean Brady, Carlos Condit, Douglas Lima. But these were decent fights, close fights, and look at the points. I mean, 34 points, 50 points in a loss. These are good losses. And I know you want to say there's no such thing as a good loss, but these were good losses. He wasn't blown out. He wasn't beat down. And it's easy to say, well, he's only 2-3 in his last 5. With that being said, Ramiz Brahimaj is sort of a different animal, especially grappling. He's most famous for almost losing his ear in his Max Griffin fight. But Ramiz Brahimaj is a phenomenal, literally world champion grappler. And if he sticks to his grappling, he absolutely wins this fight. The issue in the past has been he doesn't always stick to his grappling. But if he sticks to his grappling, I think it's an easy fight for him. I mean, no fight against Court is easy, but it's a very straightforward path. I think he takes Court down. He controls him. I don't think he'll submit him, but I think he gets the win, rides it out, and just he's the superior, more technical, more gifted fighter. It's going to look very similar to the Sean Brady fight. And yes, Court McGee put up some decent points in that fight, but Ramiz Brahimaj is a better grappler than Sean Brady. I think he'll take him down easier, hold him down longer. So I like Ramiz to win here. So I'm not going to spend $8,300 on Court. And if we look at Ramiz, $7,900, I will spend that. I will absolutely spend that. So I like Ramiz. I mean, look at his last fight against Sasha Politkinov, 105 points. It was a first-round submission. That won't happen here. But I do think he'll get a takedown, has some control time, and make something happen. Then we have the opening fight of the card. It's essentially a pick'em, which is why the values are almost identical. We have Vanessa Demopoulos, and she's fighting Silvana Gomez Juarez. Vanessa Demopoulos made her UFC debut against JJ Aldrich. So, that didn't go well. That's a tough go for a UFC debut. She put up some strikes, had a little bit of control time against the cage. But it obviously did not go her way. Silvana Gomez Juarez, similar situation, made her UFC debut against Lupita Godinez, but she was submitted. That went way worse for her than Vanessa's UFC debut. And these odds have moved a little bit. Vanessa has become a slight favorite, and DraftKings opened that way, so that's fine. I think Vanessa wins this fight. She has a full camp. This is at 115 pounds, where her UFC debut was at 125 pounds. She's a good striker. She likes to fight in the pocket. She doesn't have a ton of power. She doesn't have good wrestling, but she has very good grappling if it actually gets to the ground. I don't know if Silvana Gomez is going to take her to the ground, but if she does, Demopoulos will have the edge there, and it's perfectly within reason that Demopoulos will shoot a takedown herself. She's a very good grappler. Her takedowns do need some work, but she may have been working on that. And similar to Vanessa, Juarez's last fight was her UFC debut, as I mentioned. She's also a striker, but Vanessa likes to fight in the pocket. Silvana likes to use her reach, keep people on the outside. She does have power in her hands. She's got heavy kicks, not much of a grappler. I think Vanessa wins this fight. I think she'll have more volume, and she's definitely the more versatile fighter. So I think Vanessa wins. $8,200, it's honestly probably worth it. It's probably worth it. But, it's an interesting card. There's already some shifts. I mentioned we have Charles Rosa stepping in. The way COVID is flying around, I imagine there's going to be more drops before Saturday. So stay tuned. Let me know in the comment section which picks you like, what you don't like, what an ideal lineup looks for you. And don't forget, become a member and work your way towards that 50 free dollars that we give away to all members who win our DraftKings contest. I'll see you on Saturday for our pre-fight breakdown.